Unemployed Gen Z are having to turn down work because they can't afford the commute and uniform, report shows. I consider myself somewhat of a millennial defense lawyer for Gen Z. While delusional boomers and the whole media establishment thinks they're lazy for not wanting to work, I think that in this economy with these BS wages and working conditions, they're absolutely right for not wanting to work. But as you can see now, even if Gen Z wanted to work, these stupid boomers and greedy corporations screwed over the economy so bad that they literally can't even afford to have a job itself. From needing to fork out for a new uniform, or rather work appropriate clothes, to splashing out on a travel card, to clock into work, it's all tallying up. 1 in 10 unemployed Gen Z has had to turn down a job because of such costs. It's important to note that this study was conducted in the UK, which, while it's absolutely bad there as well, don't get me wrong, I'd still argue that it's not quite as bad as in America. You at least don't have to have a car there, but I guess things have gotten so expensive that even public transportation to your job is unaffordable now. It's also such bullshit to me how employers want you to dress a certain way on the job, yet they won't pay for the uniform. There's a hilarious irony in all of this, which is that a lot of corporate shills have called my content communist or pushing pro-communist propaganda. Yet they don't realize that the corporate workplace is the most communist environment ever. Think about it. Your boss is an unelected authoritarian dictator who can't be voted out no matter how big of an asshole he is, and you're all forced to wear the exact same clothes, just like under communism. Hell, it's even worse because under communism, at least, they pay for the clothes they want you to wear. Let's do a quick breakdown to see just how much it costs to be able to afford to have a job in the first place. First off, you have to rent an apartment in the city, as that's the only way you'll be able to commute to work. Now, most apartments won't even approve you if you don't have a job in the first place. So I'm not even sure how you're supposed to get started doing all this shit society wants you to do. Like, society wants you to move out and get a job, but you're stuck in this impossible paradox where you can't get a job without an apartment, but you also can't get an apartment without a job. The one workaround I did find for this is some apartments will approve you without a job, if and only if you can pay 3 months in advance, plus the deposit. The average rent price in America is $1,748 per month. If we multiply this by 3 plus the 1 month in advance as a deposit, we're already at a total of $6,992. Remember, this is the cost you're paying to be able to afford to work. Typically, when we pay for stuff, we're paying for things we actually enjoy. Entertain, vacations, leisure, and so on. But these asshole boomers and corporations want you to pay thousands of dollars so that you can work at a soulless 9 to 5 you hate? Someone explain how any of this even makes sense. You also have to pay for transportation costs, which in the US means you need to have a car. Those things are not cheap. The average price of a new car is $47,338. You're probably not going to be able to afford that if you're a young person looking to get your first job, so chances are you're going to have to lease one. But all that means is that you're going to pay even more than the full price, eventually over time. You could opt for a used car, but that doesn't circumvent the problem as those things are prone to breaking down at any moment and costing you even more money. Let's just be extremely generous and say you're able to get a used car that miraculously never breaks down. The average price of a used car is $28,960. You're going to be paying this at some point, whether you do it all at once or in monthly payments. So if we add this to the $6,992 it costs to move into an apartment, we're now at a price of a staggering $35,952 just to afford the ability to wage slave away at a job you hate. Then you add all the extra shit that you have to pay for having a job. Work clothes, lunches in the city center, training and certificates, and so on. Let's just be generous and say it costs $40,000 to afford to be able to work. I've said in previous videos that Gen Z should just avoid working at all costs these days, and while most people agree and see how BS the system is, there's the occasional straggler who disagrees and says that refusing to work is worse. The thing is, I'm not basing this assessment off my own personal opinion. I'm basing this off raw financial facts and numbers. It costs $40,000 to start working, even if you wanted to. And it's not even a purchase that makes sense because the whole point of spending our hard-earned money is to buy things we actually enjoy. If you just stayed at home living with your parents, you might have to spend, what, a few $100 per month on food? A one-time purchase of $500 for a PS5 compared to $28,000 for a used car? Yeah, you'll be a burden to your parents if you just live at home, but you're going to be a far bigger burden to them if you go out and work. There's no way any entry-level job is going to pay you $40,000 just to start working with them. So someone is going to have to pay that initial investment. And let's face it, it's going to be your parents. I got a friend who's been saddled with a $50,000 student loan debt for over 2 decades now, and his dad is still paying back his student loan debts to this day. What do you think is a bigger financial burden to your parents? A one-time $500 purchase of a PS5 or a $50,000 student loan debt that accrues interest every month and won't be paid back for decades if ever at all? These are just the facts. These are just the numbers. Nothing I said there was an opinion. Working isn't free. This is a fact. In fact, it's very expensive. And you'll be a way bigger burden to your parents if you work than if you just live at home and do your own thing. I'm not even sure what else is there to say at this point. Do you want me to lie and say that somehow $500 is more than $50,000? Now, I get that for a lot of you. Your parents are assholes, and living with them really isn't an option. But believe it or not, there are many other ways to survive without a job these days. And I go more in depth about this in this video right here. Check it out to learn more. I'll see you there.